Hi everyone, it's me, Fabulous Tay, back on Happy Cult, and today I have Dina Osiris with me. She is a spiritual alchemist. I feel really honored to have this conversation and to share her knowledge with all of you guys. Let's start with learning a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this wonderful introduction. So what do I do? As you mentioned, it's spiritual alchemy, or you can say transpersonal psychology. But what is spiritual alchemy? It's basically going the Maya out of the illusion of the not self, which is also your ego, and it's being enslaved, imprisoned under the conditioned mind. So who's imprisoned? It's the soul. The soul is imprisoned under the conditioning of the mind. So we are conditioned to believe certain things about ourselves. The environment shapes that. Genetically, it is also being shaped through our experiences. We are conditioned in a certain way. For example, if you grow up in India, you'll have certain opinions about yourself, other than if you are growing up in America, Egypt, or in China. The opinions we take on from our environment. If our opinion is based on the environment, it means if your soul chose to incarnate in another country, then you will reflect their opinions. Now, under all these opinions, who are you? So that's the unlearning, that's the deconditioning of the mind, where you go away from what you have been taught to who you truly are.
Is there an age or time frame that we are conditioned and learning from the outside environmental factors?
Yeah, in the first 8 to 10 years, we are in a state called theta state, as a high-speed processor that downloads everything the toddler sees in his environment. They are in the theta state, where we download what we see in our environment in high speed.
Once we are past age 8 to 10, what state do we go into?
Let's imagine it as a software. So you download iOS 13. That's your conditioning. Now the child starts to apply everything it downloaded. It doesn't mean that we cannot learn. It just becomes much, much harder after that. You have to do it manually. You need to go to the settings, and there you need to change something. But if you don't do it, it just runs a program in the background. It just keeps running. Everything we were taught, for example, the child looks at the mother. That's their definition of female. The father would represent the idea of masculine. The relationship of the parents is what the person downloads as love. Now you can imagine why we're in such a chaos.
From as young as we're first born, we're taking in everything around us.
Yes.
And learning exponentially fast.
Mm-hmm. Yes, through our experiences, but also through our conditioning. The word ancestral trauma comes into play here. Mm-hmm. If your mother holds judgment, you're gonna hold judgment because she passes that on you until someone in the bloodline heals that wound. Why do I say judgment is a wound? Because it is not based on the ultimate truth. Judgment is based in separation. The ultimate truth is oneness.
You take what someone has experienced and the past traumas that they have gone through, mm-hmm. and help them work through that?
Yeah. I address the wounds, heal them, and actually transmute them. Transmutation means we turn guilt into forgiveness.
How does that work? What is the first step?
It's actually all about qualities. God, consciousness, source, however you would like to call it, has different qualities. He put all his qualities in you in varying degrees. The all is in the all, but in varying degrees. This is alchemy. Let's say I have 3 different soups. They all have same ingredient, but just here I put a little bit more salt. Here I put a little bit more paprika, and here I put ginger. So they all have different percentages, so they taste different. Now we have individuality, but also sameness. So now we have those qualities. All qualities of the divine are within us in varying degrees. When a quality is not in its highest frequency and its highest expression, it is in the shadow. What I mean with that is, let's say forgiveness. That's a divine attribute. It's a very high frequency, but its negative expression would be guilt. As we are living in this realm of duality, duality is the illusion. The sacred trinity is the truth, but I will get back to that later. So we have now the 0 point here, we have minus 100. So we have a x and y axis. Here is cold and here is hot. It's one and the same energy. It's just the temperature. It's just the other side of the coin. This is the quality of the one and the same thing. Now let's say we have cold, we have hot. This is just the minus expression, and this is the positive expression of it. Now let's apply that on qualities. We have guilt, and it's negative expression. Now if we go higher in frequency, guilt turns into forgiveness. That's the divine quality, the frequency of it. We hold trauma, and when we are in the shadow frequency, we experience the negative qualities of those divine attributes until we go and work on them. Then unlock or liberate our soul from our ego.
When you're speaking with someone who doesn't necessarily know where to start or how to start, what are you working on them with?
I ask them specific questions. What would you like to improve in your life? I ask them about specific patterns and triggers. Triggers are treasures because they show you actually where you need to head. As Rumi said it beautifully, the cure for the pain is in the pain. So if I know what's your pain, let's say, for example, you tell me I keep getting betrayed, or someone else tells me I keep getting ignored, then I go into the pain. And usually I find any kind of experience in the childhood.
More often than not, these habitual patterns, whether consciously or subconsciously
created,
yeah, usually originate from childhood experience.
Can, mostly, but don't have to.
They can also originate from ancestral experience.
Yes.
When we get older and as we become aware of this, we're constantly experiencing
what you're holding. So if you hold judgment, you're going to experience judgment. If you hold anger, you're going to experience anger. Whatever you hold, you're going to experience until you work on it. It depends on how much resistance, of course, you have. Your love, that's your truth. You keep having the experience of what you're not until you say, enough. I've had enough. I don't want to play that avatar anymore. I don't want to be that character anymore.
Taking control.
Exactly. And you're realizing that you were playing out a role that you're not because you're suffering. If someone says to me, I'm always misunderstood, people seem not to get me, and I'm treated unfairly, I would understand that they're doing exactly this to themselves. Because that's what the universe basically is. It's just a copying machine of what you do to yourself. So we are here to love ourselves. If you're not doing that, then you're going to have the experience of that. If someone keeps getting betrayed, it's because the person keeps betraying her or himself. The remedy of unconsciousness is consciousness. So we uncover and shed and put some light on the unconscious. How do I betray myself? What exactly am I doing? My coping mechanism, what is my protection mechanism? Because again, most of what we do is subconscious. We have this toxic behavior that we don't see because it is subconscious. So I first need to realize, how am I betraying myself? For example, by betraying my own needs and keep saying yes, although I actually want to say no.
The first step is acknowledging.
Yes.
And realizing that there is a different way to live.
Yes.
And you don't have to continue down this routine of habitual thought that society and environmental factors have placed upon us. How does someone start to get out of that hole? Let's say someone is struggling with depression. It's one thing to know that you don't want to feel that way. To acknowledge, I am done feeling this way. But the hardest part is that first step.
Yes.
What is your advice to someone who is at that point in life?
Go within and listen to whatever the heart tells you, and to do that. And if it means that you're gonna lay in bed and cry, then do that. If it means that you want to stand up and do sport, do that. If it means that you want to read, do that. Whatever feels right at that moment, trust it and listen to it. There is no right or wrong. For every human being, it's different. I can't give you an indefinite answer for that, because
we're all unique.
It's relative. Right. Everything is relative.
What works for someone is
exactly
the remedy for someone else.
Exactly. I don't have one specific answer for that, but embrace whatever you're feeling right now. That leads us to acceptance. The law of humility, which is part of the law of karma, they're like universal laws. And it says one must accept something in order to change it. First, I have to accept it. If, for example, I have pain in my hand, but I'm denying I have a hand at all, I can't heal it because I don't have a hand. If I accept it and I own my shit, now we can talk.
The first step is accepting.
Yes.
Once the patient has begun to accept and acknowledge, what is the next step?
The next step would be inner child healing. We go into the wound because the way out is through. When we experiencing trauma, and with trauma, I don't mean that someone killed your parents. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. Trauma just means you were in a situation where you couldn't self-soothe. That's a trauma.
All different types of traumas.
Yes, 100%.
Are there certain levels to traumas?
For sure. But let's say you just experienced something in your childhood and that was a traumatic experience for you. An emotion is energy. Emotion means energy in motion, emotion. Now, energy is designed to move. Everything moves. The planets move. Everything rotates all the time. When you experience a positive emotion, it just goes through your body, and then you let it go. Let's say you're eating a beautiful mango. It's juicy, it's tasty, you love it. You are in joy while you're eating it, and then you let it go. You're not hanging there after 2 months on your bottle. It's not the mango. We don't do that. You just enjoy it and you let it go. But we do that with the negative emotions. We get attached to it. So now I had a negative experience. I got attached to it. I don't move on. I don't let it go. I attach to it. So I walk with it. I'm going to get to that. So why is that? We had it before. The energy moves through you. You let it go, right? It's positive. Now the negative experience is different, because the negative emotion, such as jealousy, resentment, anger, aggression, whatever it is, goes through you. We didn't learn from childhood how to self-soothe or how to actually navigate our emotions. Most people are emotionally immature, and they're 40, 50 years old. When you experience that negative emotion, we identify with it, and we don't want to feel it. We don't like to feel pain. We don't like to feel jealousy. We don't want that. It's So when it moves through you, what do? We do like that. We constrict. When we do that, you see what I'm getting tense?
Yeah.
We don't allow it to flow. We keep it in. We stop it. And then we keep it.
And it gets blocked from coming out.
You keep it in your vessel. You keep it in your container. Now you walk around with a lot of negative emotions. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to manifest exactly that what you're holding.
When we're holding those negative emotions that are blocked inside of us, does that then have any contribution to our thoughts?
For sure.
then are we more likely to have negative thought patterns?
Well, you're holding it, so you're keeping it. If you keep it, you keep feeling it. We are doing exactly the opposite of what we want. We don't want to feel it, but through our reaction, we keep feeling it. Exactly. So what is the remedy? Feeling your emotions. And that brings us back to your question, to the inner child. We have to address every wound, and we need to allow us to feel all the hurt, all the grief, all the anger that we didn't feel.
And then release. And
then release,
once
exactly.
we feel,
we release.
That allows us to release.
Exactly, but in a safe space, in a safe container.
Through your work, do you help someone figure out what emotions they have?
You are aware, but unconsciously. Yes, and yes, I help with that. It's actually pretty easy to figure out what you're holding. That leads us back to the term pattern that we already talked about. You have a wound physically. You can see it. So because you can see it, you can go to the doctor and fix it, heal it.
Right.
Now the emotional wounds you can't see.
Right.
What to do now? So the universe will help you see it by throwing at your wound over and over again. Voila, we have a pattern.
Anything that we're holding on ourselves internally, even though we can't see it within ourselves, if we open ourselves up, taking a step back and seeing what patterns are continuously happening in our life,
you figure out your core wound.
Yes. What we're holding on to.
Exactly. And behind that emotion, rejection, guilt, or shame, whatever that is, behind that, deeper in the subconscious, on the mental level, there is a belief that leads us to why all the spiritual teachings work with positive affirmations, because you're holding on to a belief. Belief creates a behavior creates a reality.
At the core, the work that you're doing is targeting the beliefs of the individual.
So what I do, based on transpersonal psychology and spiritual alchemy, it's actually alchemizing this negative emotion into higher ones. So we take this belief that is based in fear, heal it, and turn it into love. So we decondition the mind, reprogram the mind. We go from I cannot trust human beings to I wisely choose who to trust, because that belief serves more than the other one, because you're going to have the experience of that.
How do you target the belief?
Through your patterns. I can see what is behind that. If you keep experiencing being abandoned, if I look at your childhood, usually I find clues on how this child got abandoned. So the person believed about herself, she's not worthy and deserving of love, because that's behind abandonment. You're not worthy of that love. That's why you are being abandoned.
So our patterns are telling us our beliefs. Then once we understand what those patterns are,
well, they show you actually your core wounds. And behind that, you find your belief, exactly, limiting belief.
Then once we have found that limiting belief, how do we work through that?
That's the alchemy. Now we go to the alchemy. So once we went through all the acceptance and the healing and the feeling, and we went down the rabbit hole, and then we figured out, okay, abandonment's one of the core wounds, and we push through that, we heal it, and then we figure out, okay, that's the belief behind that. That's actually what manifested all those patterns, because you keep reliving something over and over again. Once we have that, now the actual work starts of reprogramming the subconscious. And we know today that we can reprogram the subconscious in 21 days through repetition.
We can reprogram the subconscious in 21 days.
Yes, through repetition. Exactly. That's why most of the ancient spiritual teachings use malas. This is a mala, and it has 108 beats. You keep repeating something over and over again. I'm worthy and deserving of love. 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 And I keep repeating that so that the mind comes to a new conclusion. I'm worthy and deserving of love.
The more that we repeat something, the more that subconsciously our mind is inclined to have that immediate
new program. Yes, that's how you form a habit. If you do something, it's super hard to stop doing that.
The same way in which we form physical habits in our daily routine. Let's say I want to get in shape. The first habit is to wake up in the morning and then I put on my gym clothes and put on my sneakers to make sure I go to the gym.
Yes, if you do that for 21 days, it becomes a habit.
And
now it's an autopilot.
Approach is taken internally on our mind and on our subconscious thoughts.
Yes. So then it becomes your nature. You were running on autopilot. Same as you're running on autopilot and believing you're not worthy and deserving of love.
So when we break it down, we can do the work.
Yes, for sure. 100%.
And everyone has access to do the work.
Yes.
It's just wanting to put in the work.
Yes. Always lead to Roma. We all will find our own way. It depends on how much resistance each person has. And if it is even your purpose in this life or not. Some do not come with that purpose into this experience. For example, the generation of our parents, it's not their purpose. They came to do specific things, but they didn't have the awareness. They didn't have all that what we have today.
During those 21 days, how are you working with your patients?
We take the wound and we address them on all layers. What I mean with that is we are a triune being, your mind, body, spirit. So the wound goes through all bodies of your aura. And this wound has an expression on the physical level. It has an expression on the mental level. It has an expression on the energetic level. For example, something will give you anxiety. This is how you experience it. But there is a belief behind it that gives you that anxiety. And then you have a behavior that is connected to that, like a coping mechanism, all related. So we need to do practices on the physical level, on the emotional, on the mental level, and on the spiritual level. There are different practices in yoga that we do. There are different practices mentally. For example, this is a mental practice. You keep repeating something. I love to use for that EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's called tapping. Tapping is a blend of psychology, neuroplasticity, and Chinese medicine, where you tap on meridian points and you flush prana through your nervous system, clearing out trauma. Anyhow, it's a way of deconditioning the mind. That's a mental practice. Then we have spiritual practices. So you do meditation, different kind of exercises there. You have this wound, you attack it from all sides.
And you can't heal without addressing all aspects.
And that's how you alchemize it.
Typically, the first step is the physical.
I do them all together.
They're all together.
Yes. You have the homework. I designed for you morning routine where you do this exercise and this exercise together. And then you start to give exactly what you lack to yourself. And this is called reparenting your inner child. If you have the wound of rejection or abandonment, it's the same energy. It's because your inner child was at some point abandoned or felt abandoned. Sometimes not even real, but it's what the person felt. What you do now is you need to figure out how you're unconsciously abandoning yourself and then to start to give that to yourself. You're reparenting your inner child. You're healing your own wound through yourself. Why is it reparenting? Because you are the adult now that is giving your inner child what it didn't have.
We can do all of this ourselves.
Yes. You just need to know the equation. Just need to know how.
Do we ever get to a point where we stop parenting?
It's an ongoing process, but you keep addressing every wound you have until you reach Christ consciousness, till you reach enlightenment.
So it is each step, each time that we're working on ourselves, it is allowing us to get one step closer to experiencing pure joy.
Your truth, which is love. Yes.
So the goal is love.
Yes. You were created out of love.
And we're all worthy of it.
For sure, because you are it. You're in the embodiment of love, but you're experiencing what you're not until you keep recreating yourself to the highest version of yourself, which is love. And when you radiate and embody that love, you find the kingdom that is within you. You enter heaven.
That's beautiful. We're talking about love, and we all have it within us. Why are we all here? What are we doing here?
We're experiencing ourselves. There's this one being, you can call it God, source, consciousness, this one energy, and it wants to experience itself in all possible ways. You start to play an alchemist. You put one ingredient and you keep changing the ingredients, just the percentage of it, and see what does this combination do, and what does this combination do, and what does this combination do, and what can I be? The divine is limitless.
We can be anything.
Exactly. We come into this realm to experience our truth. We keep recreating ourselves. You have the experience and then you realize, okay, no, that doesn't work for me. Then you change your belief. Then you create anew and you keep recreating yourself. So you keep evolving.
That's why we work on our beliefs.
Right.
To continue to evolve.
Because you have free will.
To experience.
Exactly. You have free will. You can experience whatever you want. So if you believe in racism, you're going to have this experience of it until, and then of course life will crush you because that's not the truth. That's not your ultimate truth. Because racism, for example, is based in fear. It is, and fear is not love. It's the other side of it. And it's based in separation. But the ultimate truth is oneness. So life will give you that experience. That means what? You're going to suffer until you surrender and come to a new conclusion. Okay, that didn't serve me. That's maybe not the truth. I'm going to look now for what is the truth. So you change your belief.
By changing our beliefs, we're actually changing our experiences.
Because the universe is just like a copying machine. It just gives you whatever you believe.
The voice inside our head is guiding us and guiding our lives.
Yes.
And what we experience
in
life and get out of life.
Yes.
Those that have a dream, have a belief, know that they are worthy, know that they are capable. Those are the ones that achieve
the highest potential. Because fear is paralyzing. Fear limits. If you believe you can't do something, that's just the limitation of your mind telling you that. But it's not true.
I read somewhere by the age of 12, we're told the word no over 20,000 times, habitually creating this limiting belief of no, we can't. The amount of times we're told yes, we can, and that we can do something and be something is far fewer.
Yes, but that's exactly what is the Maya, the matrix.
Yeah.
This is when you are in your conditioning. Your conditioning tells you, you can't do this. That's your conditioning. But you need to push through that. And when you do, you get out of your conditioning and you realize that you are limiting yourself.
Within societies, mainstream media, fear is provoked and constantly put forth on individuals. Fear of COVID, for example. Every major news channel.
Yeah, because you can control.
About the negative.
You can't be controlled if you're in a fear state. But if you're empowered, you can't be controlled.
And that's the most dangerous state. And that's the state that we need to be in to be our highest self, to reach our highest potential, to obtain pure joy.
Yes.
Your work that you do is to support someone on their journey to achieving their highest potential.
Yes. I help in remembering your divine truth.
Through various practices, through alchemy.
Yeah.
Different techniques focusing on the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. We're able to reprogram our inner engineering, rewire.
Right, because that download that we got, let's say you downloaded iOS 10, it's outdated and it's not based on facts. It's actually based on misunderstandings. For example, let's say you're 6 years old and you are part of theater in kindergarten and mommy doesn't come early and is missing it because she was just in traffic. The child takes everything personal because they don't have the capacity of wisdom. They can't understand. They're not fully developed yet to understand these things. So they take everything personal. The child comes to a belief, namely, I'm not worthy and deserving of her showing up. Mommy doesn't love me. She didn't come to me. That's all a child understands. Now, this understanding is based on a misunderstanding. She was just stuck in traffic and it is not personal. But the child took it personal. So now it's running on that program. What is needed is actually an upgrade of the software of iOS 13, for example. You have to do it manually. You need to go into the settings and change it by repeating new affirmations so you can reprogram the belief that you downloaded as a misunderstanding and change it.
Doing this and putting in this work is worth it because that allows you to experience your highest self.
Right. It brings you back to yourself, liberates your soul that is under all those limitations and this conditioning. So you start to actually go from your not self to your essential self, your true self, which is based on love and not fear.
Connecting us with ourselves that we have gotten so far away from today. We live in a world that is very disconnected. We are no longer sitting in nature in the middle of a jungle unless you're in Bali.
That's why so many people experience loneliness. Loneliness had never anything to do with someone else. You can be around so many people and still feel super lonely. Lonely you're experiencing is because you have disconnected so much from yourself, from your soul, that you are experiencing this longing that you actually don't know what it is. It's actually you missing your soul. You're missing your truth.
That
right.
Connection.
Yes.
It's inspiring to have a conversation with you who has taken the science of understanding how our brain works, the psychology of understanding the mind, mixing that with knowledge and information that we have had for centuries.
Yes.
Bringing those two together to bring out the best in all of us. The equation of how to be your best self is a mixture of Eastern practices and Western practices.
Yes.
Doing the work. The world around us is constantly changing.
That's the only constant, change. And at the end, it's one and the same thing. Spirituality is consciousness. Psychology is consciousness. You can't separate it from each other. That's why if you want to go into higher states of consciousness, you have to address spirituality and psychology because, again, it's one and the same.
How did you end up on this journey? How did you get to a point where you understood that you were worthy?
By understanding what I'm not. Again, you can't understand what's hot if you don't know what's cold. We got to have this experience to bring us to the other experience. I went through my own suffering and misery until I said enough.
You believe in this work because you have done it personally.
100%. I would never do anything that I don't stand behind 100%. I don't have theoretical knowledge. It's first-hand experience because I walked this path. I have worked on the wounds. I have transmuted some of my core beliefs into positive ones, and I have experienced how my reality started to change based on the frequency that I was emitting. You are always the creator of your reality, but I experienced how to do that consciously, yes.
Can we do this work wherever we are in the world? Do we need to be in a certain environment to start this inner work?
It can be everywhere.
It can be everywhere. So
yes, because you have all the knowledge. You have all the knowledge within you. You just need to tap into it. Everyone has everything that he or she needs in every situation. It's always given. We just don't see it. We're one.
We all have the instruments.
Yes.
We just have to put in the work.
Yes. The knowledge is within you somewhere, buried deep down inside. You gotta first heal. You unblock yourself so you can listen to your soul that is buried within. So you got to go through the healing first, but you have it. It's there.
How does someone begin to realize that the work that they're putting in is moving in the right direction?
You're going to experience it.
So it's all through their personal experience.
Based on the law of attraction, you are creating, you're manifesting all the time, 24/7, whether you know it or not. If you are unconscious, if you're still conditioned, you're gonna manifest all your limiting beliefs into matter. You're gonna have the experience of your belief. Now, if you change them by working on yourself, and now I go from I'm not worthy and deserving of love to I'm worthy and deserving of love. When I change it, I'm gonna have the experience of that. So my reality will start to shift. This is what we call a quantum leap. You go from one frequency band into another one. So you will recreate your reality. And if you had misery, now you're gonna be in bliss. So of course you're gonna know.
Are we attracting those similar frequencies?
Yes, that's the law of attraction. Remember when I told you life will always give you what you need in order to evolve?
Right.
Emotional wounds are not visible. How do you know that you have a wound if it's not visible? It's emotional, so you don't see it. The universe will keep putting it in your face until you realize it. The law of attraction takes care of that. The law of attraction says what's alike is drawn to each other.
Right.
The law of attraction has 3 different sub-laws. One is what's like unto each other is drawn to each other. If you have the energy of guilt or abandonment, rejection, or whatever, you're gonna attract someone with that similar wound. And then you start now to play out whatever toxic dynamics gonna happen until you learn your lesson. Becoming aware that you were holding a belief about yourself that is not aligned with your highest truth, and your highest truth is love. The first law is what's like unto each other is drawn. The second law of attraction is the science of deliberate creation. What this is saying is whatever you give thought to, whatever you expect, whatever you believe is. So you're going to have the experience of that. The third one is the art of allowing. Nothing can come into your experience, nothing, without you allowing it. How do we allow things? If I believe I'm rejected, now I allowed you to come and reject me. I recreated this situation. And that brings us to no one is a victim here.
It has nothing to do with environment. Environment can create certain situations, but your belief is ultimately what guides you to ending up in experiencing that said situation.
100%.
No matter where we are in the world and where we came from, that doesn't matter.
No.
What matters is what we believe in.
It's all about belief. Do you believe? And again, you have free will. We all know that term, free will. So you can have any experience you want to or not until you realize it's not serving you. Then you keep evolving into the most highest version of yourself. So you align yourself bit by bit to your highest truth that's based on love. This is actually good news. It's frustrating for some in the beginning,
right?
Because they're like, oh, now I'm manifesting all this, but it's unconsciously. How can I change it? The good news is you're a creator. Now you can create consciously.
Tapping into our creativity.
Any activity of creation that you engage in trains the right hemisphere of your brain, which is based on creativity, on colors, imagination. It's the feminine aspect of you.
And that's also related to positive thought.
It's a good question. That's more a skill because you have your left side of the brain where you're like, those are the qualities, the masculine qualities. So your structure, organizing, logical thinking. If you want to become creative, you want to paint, you gotta use the right hemisphere of your brain. And if you align those, that's when you actually create magic. You got to align the feminine and the masculine and bring them into union.
And we all need to have the feminine and masculine in balance within ourselves.
If you want to. You have them anyways in yourself, but if they're out of balance, it will hinder you in a lot of things. Most women nowadays are programmed to use the masculine side way more dominantly, and it's not working quite well for us because we're acting out of design, but we grew up in a masculine dominated society.
How does one reconnect with that feminine side? Through creativity?
Yeah, starting there, reading a lot, educating yourself about what is feminine quality. Most women don't even know. Feminine quality flows. It is unpredictable. It's not logic. It's creative. It has a deep sense of knowing. It's flexible. It's fluid. Planning, structure, that's not feminine. A feminine is so in tune with her own guidance. She just flows from one thing to the other and just listens to what the guidance is telling her. Water is feminine.
The ocean, the mother, and reconnecting with those things in nature too. Ocean helps bring out those feminine energies.
Yes. A lot of women nowadays engage in women's circles, start to read about what are feminine qualities. Then, of course, you have to reflect on yourself. How am I reflecting those feminine qualities? Or am I doing everything organized, planned, structurized, very masculine? Am I flexible? Am I compassionate? These are all feminine qualities. And the feminine, by the way, contains the masculine. So it's not that you don't have masculine qualities. It's just that's what dominates here.
Through the work that you do, it's so much more than rewiring your mind for the beliefs, but it's changing your entire life.
Yes, because if you want to go from your avatar, your personality, which is your ego is your identity, the avatar that you're playing. Taylor, that's your avatar. You're not Taylor. You're just playing Taylor for a time frame in your time here on earth. But your soul was there before it went into this body, and it will continue to exist after you are being reborn. And with that, death. But there is no death. There's just rebirth. You're just playing a role, an identity. We get attached to this identity and we identify with that identity, but that's the ego. When you work on your ego, you go beyond your ego, and you put off the mask, you can realize your soul.
My biggest takeaway from this conversation is that I feel empowered, knowing I have the power within myself to achieve and do whatever I want and make whatever I want a reality.
Yes.
That is something that we all have within ourselves and we're all capable of. It's just putting in the work to get there.
Because the soul, when it enters life, goes into a state of amnesia. You forget that you are divine and you are Taylor. So you forget that you're actually divine. There is nothing but one here, just playing out different roles. This is just a theater. It's just an illusion. It's just a play to experience our highest possibilities.
You help facilitate that.
To help you remember.
To help you remember. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, this conversation. We're not taught how to rewire our mind, how to go within, how to deal with emotion. And we need people like you to help us experience that and to help guide us in our own journey. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you for having me and spreading the word and the remembrance of the divine. Thank you so much.
So much.
I feel honored.